Greetings, friends around the world. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Continuing Church of God, and welcome to 2019 Behind the Work with the Continuing Church of God. We expect to show you some things we've been doing throughout the past 12 months, places that we've gone, to share with you how we've been working on fulfilling various commissions that Jesus gave. But first, let's read one of them. We'll read this from the book of Mark. I'm going to read from Mark chapter 16, verse 15, the words of Jesus. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." So what have we done in order to try to do that? You see, I've got a globe here. I don't know how well this is going to show very well in this. But for example, in Ethiopia, over in this part of Ethiopia, in Gabala, Ethiopia, we had Koang Deng, who was speaking to people during the Feast of Tabernacles. The people came over not only from Ethiopia, but also from the south part of Sudan. And so we were able to reach the people there. And so sometimes we reach people by them coming to us, and sometimes we reach people by going to see them. Now, my family and I went over to Serbia. Let's see if I can find it here on this particular globe. I don't know how well it's going to show over there. Okay, which would be here, over in Europe, in Eastern Europe. We went there during the Feast of Tabernacles, and I'd like to show the opening message, at least the first few seconds of that, so you can watch this. Dobar dan. Greetings, friends and brethren around the world. This is Dr. Bob Thiel, giving a message for the opening night of the Feast of Tabernacles in Novi Sad in Serbia. This particular message is going to be translated into Serbian by Sani Veljic.
Dobro večer i pozdrav svima, draga braća i prijatelji širom sveta. Otvaramo noć praznika Senica, nalazimo se u Novom Sadu, drugom po veličini gradu u Srbiji, te će ova poruka zbog njene važnosti biti prevedena na srpski jezik.
And also while I was there, I specifically preached about the good news of the gospel of the kingdom of God, and our elder there, Aleksandar Veljic, also translated it into the Serbian language, and we ended up putting that up online so people could watch this, both in English as well as in Serbian. In addition to that, our family went and we checked out some other things about Serbia by visiting a very large church they have over in Belgrade. So you can watch some clips regarding that. Here we are in Belgrade, Serbia. We're in front of the church of St. Sava. This is one of the largest Orthodox churches in the world. It was literally, translation in English is the Temple of St. Sava. It's located in the plateau in Belgrade. It's one of the largest church buildings in the world. St. Sava, who was born in the 12th century, is known as the Enlightener. He was a Serbian prince and an Orthodox monk. And he basically founded the Serbian Orthodox Church. And he left and he became a monk, and he was trained in Russia. And he came over here, and here's a picture. This is a statue of him. He was recognized as the first Serbian archbishop by the patriarch, who was exiled in Nicaea. And this particular church is large, and like most Orthodox churches, it has a lot of icons in it. We're trying to reach people of all faiths and all backgrounds, which also includes the Orthodox Church. Now, we were interrupted a few moments ago by some kind of a wedding ceremony. If they allow us into the church, we'll try to film some things in there as well to show you a few aspects of the Orthodox religion. And so we'll stop it here, and we'll see if we can get inside and show you some of the inside of, again, the largest Orthodox church in Serbia and one of the largest Orthodox churches in the world. The door on the way into the church, I've noticed that people either kiss this door or they do the sign of the cross either when they enter the church or when they depart from it. St. Sava brought basically the Orthodox Church from Russia to Serbia. Orthodox churches tend to be filled with idols and icons. Also, there's a lot of art that tends to be in them. But the predominance of idols and icons reminds me of the statement that the Apostle Paul made to the men of Athens, that they were religious because he saw gods of all type. And again, this was something that we see here. in the Orthodox world. Again, the Orthodox are amongst those we were trying to reach around the world. Similar to Roman Catholics, you'll see a lot of lighted candles in Orthodox churches. You'll also see like an icon shop. Here's one here. This is the foyer of the church. You'll also see other crosses and other iconography. Someone's bowing down before one, and I'm trying not to include those type of people, so you're going to go down for a second. And again, these are religious knickknacks for sale at the foyer of the Church of St. Saba. They believe, I guess, to have favor with God by having different icons or pictures that they will venerate. Again, we're trying to reach all people and realize that many people have some mistaken ideas about God. Satan has deceived the whole world, and we're trying to reach those who don't understand, which is basically the bulk of humanity during this age. This is another angle of the building. This is a different side of the church or temple of St. Saba. One thing that we saw today was that there are at least 3 weddings going on here. Apparently this is a popular place for people to get married. There's fountains to buy it as well, and it's popular here. Again, this is the largest Orthodox church in Serbia, and we're trying to reach people of all faiths, including the Serbian Orthodox. Now, after the feast, definitely later in the year, we had a baptism over in Serbia, and we'll let you watch a little bit about that. Now, some of it's actually in Serbian, and we actually had a baptism. And we're not going to try to translate that for you. If you know Serbian, that's great. If not, well, you can just watch it and see what's going on with that.
Dakle, da li si se pokao od svojih grehova protiv Boga Oca, grehova koji su prestupi Božjeg svetog, savršenog i pravednog duhovnog zakona?
Da, naravno.
Da li prihvataš Isusa Hrista i njegovu žrtvu za tvoje grehe koji su ti navukli na glavu večnu smrt kao kaznu za tvoje sagrešenje?
Da, naravno.
Kao ishod tvog pokajanja i zato što prihvataš Isusa Hrista za svog ličnog spasitelja, svog gospoda i gospodara, iskupitelja, svog sadašnjeg prvosveštenika na nebesima i svog uskoro dolazećeg kralja, sada se krštavaš. Ne u sektu, neku sektu ovoga sveta ili veroispovest ovoga sveta, nego u samo telo Isusa Hrista, koje je crkva Božija, duhovni organizam, duhom vođen Izrael, saboru prvozačetnik. U poslanici Jevrejima u 12. glavi piše simbolično da je crkva opisana kao Sion i kao Jerusalim. Također piše da je to telo Isusa Hrista, odnosno eklesija, da je to Sionska gora Jerusalim u Bibliji i to su sve simboli istinske crkve. Dakle, evo kojoj crkvi ti sada pristupaš. Čitam ti iz poslanice Jevrejima 12. glava, stih 22. do 24. Nego se vi, dakle svi mi, sada i ti, približiste gori Sionskoj, gradu Boga živoga, Jerusalimu nebeskome, mirijadama anđela, saboru prvorođenih upisanih na nebesima, sudiji koji je Bog svima, duhovima pravednih koji su dostigli savršenstvo, Isusu, posljedniku Novoga saveza i krvi kropljenja koje bolje govori nego Avelina. Ovaj izraz u 23. stihu koji kaže sabor prvorođenih zapravo bi se bolje preveo kao sabor prvozačetih. jer činom krštenja, naravno, ti ćeš postati deo prvih koji su začeti duhovno od Božjega duha. U Čarićevom doduše prevodu piše da pristupaš crkvi prvenaca koji su popisani na nebesima. Isto tako veoma lep prevod. Dakle, ti sada pristupaš eklesiji crkvi prvina Božjeg spasenja, simbolično u ovaj dan prvina. Ti gresi koji si počinio protiv Boga, Oca, oni su prema Bogu, ali tvoja vera je prema Isusu Hristu za oproštenje tvojih grehova, a posljedica čišćenja tvojih grehova, naravno, jeste da će krv Isusa Hrista, kada bude simbolično porinut, odnosno simbolično sahranjen u vodenom grobu, krv Isusa Hrista će te očisti i tada u tebe čisto da moći da se nastani sila Svetoga Duha, koju će Bog da pošalje sa neba, da se nastani u tvoj um i da te duhovno začne kao dete Božje, kao prvinu Božje i dolazećeg spasenja. Kao što je zapoveđeno u Svetom pismu, sada ćeš se krstiti u ime, odnosno autoritetom Isusa Hrista za oproštenje tvojih grehova. Ja koji stojim ovdje sam samo isključivo posrednik u ovome činu, namjesto Isusa Hrista, koji će stvarno je taj koji te kršta. I on će naravno u tom činu duhovno da obleži tvoje srce. Tebi, Aleksandre Stanisavljeviću, neka Bog po tvojoj veri podari silu svog Svetoga Duha, da te vodi u svaku istinu do kraja tvog života u ovom tvom telu fizičkom. U Hristovo ime. Amen.
So we had baptism there. Now we sent Deacon Richard Close over to Montreal in Canada, which is over this area. Let's see how long enough of us could show up there. So we went and he preached over there. Then we also sent Steve Dupuie over to Wichita, Kansas, and he spoke over there. And also related to the Feast of Tabernacles, my family and I went over to Alexandria, Virginia. I said, well, okay. So he shows us a few things regarding the Feast of Tabernacles. So what else has been going on? Well, in December 2018, Radson Mulozowa distributed Bibles in the Chichewa language to some of the brethren in Malawi, and then later over in Mozambique. If they don't have the Word of God in their language, it's much more difficult for them to understand it. So one of the things that we've done this past year. Another thing that we did is we held a couple of youth camps. We held one in December in Indiwa in Kenya, and many people went over there. We also had another one in Chiliana, Kenya, that Pastor Tiongik Sawek basically was in charge of. In addition to that, regarding trying to reach the youth, we also put out youth Bible lessons, and we've been working on that, so we've been getting those out. Something else that we've been doing to try to reach people. In the fall of 2018, we received several emails, but here's one that I'd like to read that came from India. So let me read this. It's a little bit long, but it's from Sani Mao. Dear Sir, I was baptized in 1995 by Pastor Daniel Zachariah of the Worldwide Church of God, and he probably still lives in Hyderabad. My association began sometime in 1987, and I completed the Bible course in 1991. When the Worldwide Church of God went through the changes, I also left it without anything against it, though. In time, I stumbled on a webpage that listed all the Church of God. It was an exit group. The conversation was nothing near edifying as a Church of God should be. Some of the criticisms were so silly, they helped me get closer to the target. So I began to read through the profiles of PCG, RCG, UCG, LCG, and others. I followed Dr. Thiel's opinion of the true church. I went to LCG because Dr. Thiel was there. When I saw the Sabbath continues to be valid, I joined the LCG. While the ministers were arriving, I had a dream again. I was at the airport, and I saw not an L-shaped, but a C-shaped route on the ground, which I could not comprehend nor try to understand at the time. I considered that C could be a U depending on one's viewpoint. What if it meant United Church of God? They write pretty good too, but when I read Victor Cubic went for a small birthday celebration, I changed my mind. I decided to stick to the 18 truths you wrote about, and decided to invite LCG ministers since you showed your preference for LCG at that time. From my dream, I wrote to Sasha Veljic and told him that perhaps the C represents continuing, and that dream was well before the CCOG formed. Later on, when Dr. Thiel moved out of LCG, I too found LCG talking of things that were too hard to reconcile with the Bible. For further confirmation, again, to study again. In the meantime, differences started popping up, and we were made to decide. So we moved out, or more politely, LCG left us. Earlier in this year, an associate left us, one who had been put in charge to verify the credentials of ministers and churches. He communicated with Galen Bonjour, and with you too, concluded that since Galen Bonjour did not intend any ministerial credentials upon you, when Galen Bonjour prayed for a double portion on you, that your position is invalid. But since he was in habitual error, I felt he understood. It made me sit up, and now I'm quite convinced that of CCOG, and that's our story, I disagreed with him. I must also thank his and Peter Salome's rather unkind mention of Dr. Thiel in this endeavor. I explained as host of the group, who are former members of LCG, the following. Isaac did not intend Jacob to be blessed, but it happened, and Isaac reiterated the blessing once bestowed cannot be undone. Jacob then dreamt of the ladder that ascended to heaven and saw thousands and thousands of angels descending and descending. God had endorsed the blessing made by Isaac upon him. Elijah said Elisha that his request was difficult. Nevertheless, the later used the former's cloth to cross over to the Jordan. 4. Reaching a town, he encountered some unruly children who made fun of him. Thereupon she-bears came out and silenced them. 5. I was also told them of a U.S. lady senator who carried a gun close to her chest. It was obvious for self-defense. But while changing her clothes, the gun accidentally went off and the bullet pierced her jaw and her head. She was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. This was not intended, but it was an irreversible action. Galen Bonjour may not have intended you to be a minister who exceeds in rank over the presiding evangelist, but his pronouncement cannot be reversed. And you asked him this question too. This, in a way, has settled an unsettled question in my mind. So, I would like to work together as we wish to be part of the CCOG. With regards, Sani Mao. Now that group asked for a visit, and they are located, let's not get too far up, in India, but not a part of India people tend to look at very much. They're actually over in this part, so not the main part, so way over here. And in January 2019, they paid the expenses for our elder from Serbia, Aleksandar Veljic, to go over there and to meet with them. And he met with them and showing a picture of them by a river, and he conducted 12 baptisms there. Now I'd like to show a brief portion of a video that came from there. So why don't you watch that right now?
Satan didn't deceive the whole world about the Sabbath. There are millions of people out there keeping the Sabbath. Keep that in mind. Some of those people are Jews, some of those people are non-Jews. Also, Satan didn't deceive the whole world about the immortality of the soul. There are people who believe the soul is mortal, other than us. For example, the Adventists believe that. But you see, when it comes to God Himself, then Jesus Christ is the God of the Old Testament, and that man is to become God. Those two doctrines are the two doctrines that Satan has totally tried to hide and deceive people, humanity about.
How the Old Testament Lishorga, New Testament Lishorji, Amatani had a Piramsida, Amashung, Mio Basing Sin, nobody, Shor Gundakani have a series, Anishida, Satan,
which means, brethren, that only few people in the world, the true followers of Christ, and only the true Church of God, of which we all part, does understand who is the God of the Old Testament, and that we are to become part of God's family.
Achumba Church, Achumba Ishobo. giliba itong kakani kangisi. Kanino? Old Testament gi ishor, aduga New Testament gi ishor si amatani ko. Aduga miyoy pa ekoise nomadi ishor gi imumoy kagatami ekoshu ishor gumi ekoshingala ini.
So let's now come slowly to the conclusions. It takes longer when you have translators, so this will be quicker, but other than that, I hope you are still patient, and I hope this is still interesting.
Di sangkre maramdi interpreter lairagadi wahay si sangani adubo hojite ekoi rosidaswa di asi ekoi lakadore aduna ning changna ta ko ko.
1 John chapter 4, verse 1, we're going to hear it now in Manipur. Now we're going to read a very important passage in the Bible.
1 John chapter 4, verse 1 to 3.
And your soon-to-be deacon should pay attention to this, and you should as well. Here is a discernment, who is the true minister and what is the true doctrine.
Anawayu amasung thaw hana kallaba ka amada ka aduda mahana masagi namak asowa ka ama thorang tawki.
So the great enemy of Jerusalem, brethren, the great enemy of the work of God, Tobiah, now had the high priest in the temple for his ally.
Aduna di mana am khanai juda da halaga yengba matamda ninga sangda kari thogramli nasai gi ninga sangda dugi prohin aduga Tobiah si mari mata thogna maramna yengo mana ninga sangi manunda phaba Tobiah na phataba thabaka do pangthokna na bagidamakta mana.
Anyway, enemy that was outside all of a sudden was right there in the middle of the work of God, right there in the center, brethren.
Nasai Tobiah na mapandagi thabak churam baphataba makhai ado hojikti mana manungda chansala aga mari mata semaga manungda magi phataba thabak ado amuka sinba hore.
You know, in the very temple of God, in the chamber where the Levites were leaving their tithes and offerings,
Yengo ishor ninga sakpak aduda Levi chingna magi tai ching aduga ishor kanapod pirakpat thampham aduda man chansala kre.
now came this enemy of God who was stealing those tithes, you see.
Aduna di yengo ishor gi yekna pa aduna mana ishor gi tai ching adu makuran bahura.
So the Levites gave up their priestly duties at the temple.
Aduna di Levi machasing na makoy na tawrambat thoban adu pawat adok tu na chatre.
They just went back to their fields, to work their fields, to have something to support themselves.
Aduna di guran krabani na Levi ching chang na adu guran krabani na hojiti makoy thabak thabadun sa thoga mana labuk kumba hore.
And because the Levites were gone, there is no full service.
Levi machasing na chang krabani na hojiti ninga sa thogan babini ngai mi laite.
People went back to their old ways.
Aduna di makoy achi misin na hai na di makoy thabak adu da muka hangre.
They were breaking the Sabbath, they were intermarrying with pagan women and men.
Adudagi di makoy na sabada dumaktre amasung o thajadaba nupa nupi singbu lawduna makoy na dumay na yumpankre.
And that's actually the story of Nehemiah chapter 13, you see.
Chapter 13 na masigi wari si.
And the 3 times we have Nehemiah praying to God, please remember me for the good, because he did 3 works of cleansing, brethren.
Now, one thing I should mention here, before we go any further, is that somebody there had a dream. Now, Sani had 2 dreams, but there was somebody else who had a dream. And this person had, in his dream, was told that Sasha's visa would be approved and he would be able to get there, and also that he was going to put oil on Sani Mao's head. Now, he had no idea, the person who had this dream, that Sasha and I had discussed the possibility of having Sani become a deacon. So this was a dream, and it was later confirmed. We put up a chart for just a moment of dreams, and you'll notice in this chart, and I'm not going to go through all of it in any great depth, we have 7 different people associated with the Continuing Church of God, all of which who had dreams that were confirmed, and all the dreams that were confirmed were related to the Continuing Church of God. I've found that basically Laodiceans don't seem to accept fully how God works, and most Laodiceans will not accept too many dreams from God, if any at all, and certainly the Laodiceans don't seem to wish to accept the ones that have been confirmed in the Continuing Church of God. If people would believe the Bible, however, they realize this is how God said He works. And one thing that Sani's letter didn't mention is that the Bible says that God would speak to a prophet through dreams, and I had a couple of dreams that were also confirmed. And then again, we saw about with Galen Major, etc. Now, in addition to going different places in the world, we've also spent time in the United States. In January of 2019, we went down to Orange County, Garden Grove in Southern California, and we met with people there. Furthermore, later in January 2019, we went to New Jersey. We met with people there. So we have met with people not just overseas, but also in the United States, Canada, etc. We were approached by a man from Haiti, and he was interested in us visiting and seeing what we could do over in Haiti. So what we did is Herb Haddon and his wife Giselle went to Haiti in February of 2019. You see the picture. There were tires ablaze on the tarmac in Haiti, and when they got to Haiti, it basically did not get to go very far. So we're going to show you some of the videos that they took from Haiti. So why don't you watch those now?
This is where I saw the fruits. I want to take a picture of those. Away we go for a little adventure.
I'm so sorry you don't. Well, you're going to have to come back.
I think we'll have to come back. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you have to come back.
When everything is all sort of.
Yeah, don't let it keep you from
No,
doing that.
for sure.
I don't want to let things run that way.
We can't really see Haiti in situations like this, so. Okay, what are they making there? They're pounding something in a bucket with a mortar.
No, I can't see.
Pounding
They
fruit?
could be making. They sometimes make food right here.
Oh, okay.
It depends on the day. She's the juice lady. She usually makes all the juice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she makes amazing juice. We'll
Really?
get some later, yeah. She makes me passion fruit juice. It's like to die for.
good
Yeah.
for her.
Right here?
Yeah, her. It's my girl.
Is that something we can stop and buy?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Oh,
Do you guys speak French?
Oui.
Oh, okay. Well,
Moi, je suis bilingue.
She might understand you a little bit. So.
Mon mari est anglophone, complètement anglophone. He doesn't understand
I love how it sounds. My daughter's going to France on a study abroad program in July.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, she'll enjoy
She's
that.
very excited, yeah. Well, she speaks Creole, so now she's ready to learn French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She lived here for 2 years, and now she went to school, back home for school.
It's an adventure.
My wife speaks French and she doesn't learn Creole very well because
Oh,
she
really?
only relies on her French.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, all right?
She hasn't tried to learn the Creole that much.
Yeah.
How often do you get this intersection?
Well, there's a UN car.
Yeah, but there's no UN troops here. Actually, no, we got here. There were two other cars here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the soldiers
Well, I would think so, yeah. Oh, that dog. Okay. Oh, it's a little goat. Baby goat.
were. Oh, there's goats
Walking
everywhere.
across the street.
All over.
Walking, not running.
Right in the middle of the city. Yeah.
Wow.
One time I saw a rat walking.
Oh.
A rat
for it?
walking. It wasn't running, it was walking. I was like, are you taking a stroll?
You know, you have to watch out for everything. You have to have eyes in the back of your head, really.
Is it? Ferme?
It said it was open.
No, you found people?
It's open. The doors are open.
Klaxonen. Like this, yeah, but if you're out in public and put this in my pot.
That's quite a setup.
What are we gonna do if we
We're a lot
have?
closer. I mean, every step we can make getting closer together.
Yes.
I have to go. Bon, le miss, le moyen.
We are hoping that the Haddons will be able to go to Haiti again. Now, here's a picture from March of 2019, the end of the Sabbath services in Haiti. So you see there's quite a few over there, and we're hopeful that the Haddons will be able to go back once restrictions are lifted. There are currently restrictions. Air Canada currently has not been flying there since February. I think it was February they stopped. And they intend to start again in November of 2019. We hope that will be the case because originally we were going to start again in May or June and did not do so. So we went to Haiti. Oh, I should point out where Haiti is, for those of you who are not familiar with it. Haiti is over here. It's on the island of Hispaniola. In February of 2019, leaders from Mozambique and Malawi met and were given leadership training by our evangelist over there, Ochieng. In addition to that, there were baptisms over in Malawi, and you can see a group of people lined up for baptism, as well as somebody who got baptized. So we had numerous baptisms over there. And we also have a brief clip of a baptism, so you can watch that. Now we'll show you a couple of clips of some Africans singing and some Africans working.
Kawe. Yule mwaka ndiye ite.
Yeah, we throw a whole bunch of different things together in this. In March of 2019, a long-term supporter, well, actually our first supporter from the nation of the Philippines, Oscar Mediavilla, died. And we sent Jay Chiang over there for the funeral. You can see a funeral picture. And this is the first time we've ever been able to send anybody into the Philippines. And so now let's go ahead and watch a few video clips that Jay took of the Philippines to give you some kind of a feel for the Philippines.
So, this is me walking through a neighborhood right outside. You know, this area. I see behind me, around me, there's a lot of tenements and housing. And yeah, see there's a lot of local people, the local environment. So, this is how the people are living around here. Okay, everyone. After a slight delay, well, not delay, missing of the flight, I find myself in Manila, and I am in the center, or I'm in the Rizal Park, and you can see right there where the flag is. That's where the Rizal Monument is, and this is the entire square. It's a nice big park. Now I'm standing in front of the United Nations street intersection where the light rail right behind me on the bridge is, and yeah, very, very, very busy, as you can see. Lots of traffic. As Manila is famous for its traffic. Alright, and there's the light rail. Yeah, so I'm on the way back to in a moped, I think, a Jeep. Quite an interesting experience.
In one of those clips you saw something that kind of looks like tuk-tuks, which is the type of transportation that our family and I actually used when we were in Guatemala for the Feast of Tabernacles back in, I think it was 2006. Now, as far as the Philippines go, we plan on sending Steve Dupuie and his wife, Ruth. They're intending to go in October of 2019. During 2019, Deacon Richard Close, who's from Pennsylvania, if I can find Pennsylvania here, it should be somewhere around there. He went on basically a baptizing tour. He went over into Michigan, and over in Michigan, he helped conduct services, and he performed a baptism over there. And then he went over to Wisconsin, and he conducted a baptism over there. Now, my wife Joyce and I ended up going to New Zealand, and it's kind of hard to see on this map, and it's way down here toward the bottom, so I'll kind of move that up there so you can see it. Now, I mentioned the Philippines a couple of times, and I should point out the Philippines are right over here. I should have pointed that when I was over there. So let's show a clip of Shirley Gestro and John Hickey talking a little bit about the work and what they do over in New Zealand. Here we are in Takanini, New Zealand, and I want to ask Shirley Gestro and John Hickey some questions about some things and what they've been doing over here in New Zealand. Let's start with John. John, why don't you tell people some of the projects that you've been involved in the last year or so out here in New Zealand for the work?
Well, I started off doing news reports for the internet radio program, and I've also done proofreading for the magazine every 3 months when it comes out, and any booklets that Bob writes, I proofread them before they come out.
Okay, now Shirley, you've been working on some things related to the radio program. talk about making some changes and trying to reach a different audience or bigger audience. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Just recently did a changeover on the radio to a different system, and to reach a different audience, it's going on different platforms now. So we can reach people through iTunes, TuneIn. I think it's Boss TV. We can go through Boss TV and there's several other platforms that we can, it's more open to now than it was previously. I think it's Amazon TV, I think it's called.
Talk a little bit about Flipboard.
Okay, well, Flipboard is a electronic magazine where we put in the CCOG writer news articles, we put it through there, and there's like 12 individual magazines. One of them is News and Prophecy, and one of them is to do with church history, so there's different topics for different articles. And currently it's almost 4,000 viewers we have, and we get new subscribers every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you guys also do the CCOG NZ website?
Yes, that's right. We update the CCOG.NZ website normally weekly with the sermons, anything Dr. Thiel posts, we update it, like letters, newsletters, and YouTube videos, whatever's been updated, or it could be the Bible study post. We update it on CCOG.NZ.
Okay, you guys also are involved with the administration in this particular country. Now, in New Zealand, the CCOG is a registered charity, or what is it considered?
It is a registered charity, and we also have donee status with the tax department, which involved registering with the charities, New Zealand charities first, and then with the tax department, it's sort of automatic once you notify them of that. Also, for the charities, we have to do an annual report for them showing what we're doing and where all the money's going, and of course I also do the monthly accounts for the church, keep everything up to date.
Okay, well, I know this was a spontaneous interview because I never asked you any of these questions, didn't tell you what I was going to ask you. So anyway, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and for participating in this and being part of the work. This is some of the behind the works out of New Zealand. Now, I spoke in New Zealand, and this is the first time when I was over there I actually spoke about New Zealand and Australia in prophecy, so we'll play a few moments of that. Greetings, friends and brethren. This is Dr. Bob Thiel from Continuing Church of God, coming to you today from New Zealand. And one of the reasons I thought I'd mention where I'm coming from today is because of what I'm going to talk about. I thought for the first time that I'm in New Zealand to talk about Australia and New Zealand, which I've not done before. This is, I think, our 5th trip to New Zealand, but the first time thought I'd actually talk about Australia, New Zealand, and prophecy. Now, are there any biblical or even non-biblical prophecies that could point to Australia or New Zealand? If so, what do they teach? Have any been fulfilled? And are there other prophecies that are going to be fulfilled? Or is everything just going to ignore this part of the world? I want to start off by reading something from the old Worldwide Church of God. And this is from the Tomorrow's World magazine, November 1969. It says, 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy, and about 90% of this prophecy is for us today. Most of it's directed specifically at the nations of modern Israel. We in the U.S., Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and other English-speaking lands. So back in the 60s, the old Worldwide Church of God was saying, okay, there's a lot of prophecy in the Bible, and a lot of it's got to do with Israel, and then they're calling Israel the United States, Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, etc. So wait a second. Israel just a bunch of Jews over in the little country there. Well, we're going to go into some stuff about that. Something else I want to go into a little bit, not much, but I want to talk a little bit about some things like the Cook Islands and Australia's external territories. We'll get to those later. Now, the Bible shows that the Hebrew patriarch Jacob, he had 12 sons. You can see that in Genesis 35:22. And his son Joseph seems to be the 11th one. Now, you've heard of Joseph. He's the one with the dreams and the coat of many colors. And he got sold into slavery. You read that in Genesis 37. And he's the one who told Pharaoh to store food during the 7 good years to prepare for the 7 lean years. And you can read about that in Genesis 41. Now, even though he wasn't the oldest son, he received what's called the birthright. Now, in some societies today, and back in ancient times, the birthright fell to the oldest son. The oldest son, basically, in the Bible, was to get twice as much of the inheritance as everybody else, and he was expected to take care of his aging parents, or his mother, or whatever. But even though Joseph wasn't the eldest son, you might go there. We're going to go to 1 Chronicles 5. I'm going to read verses 1 and 2. Even though he wasn't the oldest son, he got the birthright. And so some people are unaware of that, because you would think you might see this in the book of Genesis, which talks about Joseph, okay? He's dead by the end of the book of Genesis. And so, but you got to find about him back in 1 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles 5, verse 1. Now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. Reuben was the oldest son. He indeed was the firstborn. Okay, so no question, this is it. But because he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel. So the genealogy is not listed according to the birthright, yet Judah prevailed over his brothers, and from him came a ruler, although the birthright was Joseph's. So a couple different promises. I'm not going to go into the promises to Judah right now, but as far as a birthright, you see, it was given to Joseph. And again, he was the 11th son, and that was probably unheard of, because it was just not the way it was generally done. Now, the birthright here had to do with future national greatness, from what was actually promised to Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob, and then passed on to Joseph. Now, if you want to go back to the book of Genesis, go to Genesis chapter 48 and read some things that happened just before Jacob's death. Now, Jacob was also called Israel. That was his name. And before he died, Joseph took his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, to visit his ailing father. Genesis 48, starting in verse 1. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, "Indeed, your father is sick." And he took his sons with him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, "Look, your son Joseph is coming to you." And Israel strengthened himself, because Jacob's name is Israel. So I was talking about this. He sat up on the bed. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, Behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I'll make you a multitude of people, and give this land your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine." So what's happening here is Jacob, Israel, the grandfather, is saying to his son Joseph, "Okay, I am going to adopt your kids. They're going to be my kids, just like my normal kids." I'm not going to go into this, but if you go into the New Testament, you see there's 144,000 and the various tribes that are listed. Actually, Ephraim and Manasseh are both listed as separate tribes of the 12. And one of his sons, Jacob's sons, Dan's not listed. So he counted these, the New Testament counts these as sons even more than one of Jacob's actual sons. Well, anyway, let's go down to verse 8 of Genesis 48. Then Israel saw Joseph's sons, and he said, "Who are these?" And Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God had given me to this place." You may recall the story from the Bible that Joseph was sold into slavery, and he went to Egypt first. And then during the time of famine, Israel and the rest of the sons came out there. And so when Joseph's talking about this place, he's talking about Egypt, because that's where he was at. And Jacob says to him, or Israel says to him, please bring them to me, and I will bless them. Now let's skip down to verse 12. So Joseph brought them beside his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them, both Ephraim in his right hand and with Ephraim with his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near to him. Now I'm going to get into some prophecies, but we've got to first identify where the descendants of Australia and New Zealand came from, at least the British descendants from there came from. And we need to use the Bible to do this, because the Bible is where we're going to get a lot of these prophecies. Anyway, verse 14. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it over Ephraim's head, who was younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his heads knowingly, for Manasseh was his firstborn. So in other words, he crossed his hands over like this. Now, as it turns out, verse 18, we're going to go to read, Joseph thought this was a mistake. Thought his dad can't see very well. He's done this wrong. And Joseph said to his father, not so, father, for this is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, son, I know. He's thinking, no, my dad's sick. He's an old man. He can't see. He doesn't know what he's doing. No, son, I get it. And regarding Manasseh, it says, he shall become a people, and he shall also be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall be a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying, by you Israel will bless, saying, may God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. And thus he said Ephraim before Manasseh. So Ephraim was blessed so that his descendants would become a company of nations and share the staggering birthright blessings with his brother Manasseh. Ephraim represents the British descended peoples. Now we see them in the British Isles, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and there's some in places like South Africa. Now, many descendants of Manasseh ended up settling with what became the United States, which again, it was prophesied to be great. Australia and New Zealand, the land itself, began to become anglicized after the explorer Captain James Cook visited them in the late 18th century, and he mapped out part of their coastlines. Now, I want to go back to Genesis 48, verse 15, to a couple of verses I skipped. It says, and he blessed Joseph, that's Israel, blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all this evil, bless the lads, let my name be named upon them. What's his name? His name was Israel. Yes, it started off Jacob, but God says, no, from now on you're going to be called Israel. So sometimes some Bible prophecies talking about Israel are talking about Ephraim and Manasseh. And we get this from here. This is not something somebody invented in the 1800s or 1700s or something. You get this right from the Bible. And he continues, in the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into multitude in the midst of the earth. And it was in Genesis 32:28, you don't have to go there, that God changed Jacob's name to Israel. And so some of the references in the Bible to Israel is not just talking about this tiny nation that's over there in the area of Palestine, Jordan, what we consider Israel. We call Israel all the time the tiny nation over there. We're contacted by a group in Mexico. And so let's find the right part of Mexico here. They would be down in this portion of Mexico, right around in here. And we sent, in June of 2019, Rubin went there, and he spoke before them. In July of 2019, our host in Malawi, Radson Mulozowa, held a leadership conference for leaders in Sanusi, Malawi. So we show you a picture of that. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is to reach people all around the world. Now, I've showed you places from from here to here to here, to over here, oh, down in here, over here, and here, essentially all around the world. Now, why do we do this? Well, Matthew 24:14, it says, "And this gospel of the king will be preached in the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." Well, we're supposed to preach this in all the world, and we are doing so. But we're also supposed to bear fruit. We're not just supposed to have a witness, but we're also supposed to bear fruit. And fruit's going to be born. How do we know this? If you've got your Bibles, you might want to follow along. Maybe go to Luke chapter 13, starting in verse 27. So let me read from that. "But he will say, I tell you, I do not know you, where you are from. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, and you yourselves thrust out. And they will come from the east and the west, from the north and the south, and sit down in the kingdom of God. And indeed, there will be the last who are first and first who are last." So when we showed you people around the world, around the globe, we have people in the south and north and east and west. We're supposed to reach these people. We're supposed to reach these people, and the end does not come not only until the gospel of the kingdom has been preached to the world as a witness, but until sufficient numbers of Gentiles have come into the faith. We know this because you go to the book of Romans chapter 11, I'd like to read verse 25. "For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in." Now, the fullness of Gentiles has also been called the full number of Gentiles. And Irenaeus of Lyon, and I'm not going to read from him right now, but he claimed to know Polycarp of Smyrna, and he repeatedly said that God had a plan in order to call Gentiles from all over the world. Now, in the old Radio Worldwide Church of God, this was taught about, but a lot of people didn't seem to fully grasp it. So I want to read, and we'll put up for you if you can see this, something that the late Pastor General of the old Worldwide Church of God taught about Romans 11:25. Now I want you to study carefully one of the most important chapters in all the Bible, the 11th of Romans, verse 23, says, "Those who abide not still in unbelief shall yet receive salvation." Now study carefully, beginning of verse 25. "Blindness in part has happened to Israel." How long? Forever? No, note it. "Until the fullness of Gentiles has come in. The end of this age, during which God is calling a people from among the Gentiles to bear his name. And so, says Romans 11:26, all Israel shall be saved, as is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer. He shall turn away from ungodliness from Jacob. The deliverer, Jesus Christ, is coming again. When he comes, the Gentile times will be over. The blindness will be removed from the Israelites. And their opportunity, their first chance of salvation will then come to those who God had blinded. This is at the time when he comes to reign on his throne, the throne of David, with his saints, made immortal, reigning and ruling with him, and the time is during the 1,000 years. Notice verse 31. These blinded Israelites have not now in this age received mercy, that they may through mercy of the Gentiles be saved in this age. They may then obtain mercy and salvation. How? Because these saved Gentiles will then be kings and priests assisting in the wonderful work. You know, some people have criticized us. In fact, so many Gentiles have responded. Since the last time we've done one of these behind the works videos, we ended up with congregations in Haiti, India, Mexico, and also other parts of Africa. Now, some people have criticized us for that, like that's not important. Well, they need to understand the scriptures better because the full number of Gentiles will come in. Now, yes, some Gentiles are going to come in through preaching to the two witnesses and during the time of the Great Tribulation and before Jesus comes. But we are supposed to be reaching them now, planting the seeds now as a witness, as well as the fact we expect that there will be conversions now, and that's what's been happening. Now, back in the old Radio Church of God, Herbert Armstrong wrote about this as well. I'd like to read something from the Plain Truth magazine back in February, March of 1954. Blindness, in part, has happened until Israel. How long? Forever? No, note it, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. The end of the age during which God is calling a people from among the Gentiles to bear his name, these blinded Israelites have not now in this age received mercy, that through the mercy of the Gentiles saved in this age, they may then obtain mercy and salvation. How? Because these saved Gentiles will be kings and priests, assisting in this wonderful work. I say, well, that sounds a lot like what you read from a few minutes ago. That's correct. Why did I read it again? Because I want to emphasize the point. The old Worldwide Radio Church of God taught this, but as a member of the old Worldwide Church of God, I don't remember hearing much about it. The two citations I read were actually before I was associated with that church, and I don't recall it being emphasized. I think it was something that was kind of dropped. Now, they did teach it in a Bible study that I did not attend. I was not close enough. It was taught in a Bible study on June 27, 1980. Now, since I mentioned it, let me read what Herbert Armstrong said then. Verse 25, Romans 11. For I would not, brethren, that you be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part has happened to Israel, or that part of Israel meaning that great part, the big part, all but a few have been blinded. It's a big part actually, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in, or the number of Gentiles to be converted becomes complete, as other translations have it. So this is something I did not hear about when I was in the old Worldwide Church of God, because the articles I read before, one was from 1971, it was before I became interested. I think I started hearing of the church around 1972. And in the old days, by the way, they did not have the internet, so you couldn't go and look up old issues and stuff. And so this was something that was not emphasized as much, but it was something that was important. And it is something that's important. Clearly, we are closer to the time when Jesus is going to return. We're closer to the time the Great Tribulation is going to start. And the end does not come until the gospel of the kingdom has been preached to all the world as a witness, as well as Jesus doesn't come again until the full number of Gentiles comes in. And we need to lay the foundation for that. We've been the fastest growing Church of God in the 21st century, and it's got partially due to a great degree to do actually with bringing in Gentiles, or Gentiles coming in. Now I'd like to read something from Plain Truth magazine, 1967. For I would not, brethren, that you be ignorant of this mystery, lest you be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part has happened in Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Romans 11:25. God has a time schedule he is working out. And that's the time schedule is for the time of the end. And in these end times, we're not supposed to sit on our laurels and say, okay, particularly those of us in the West, okay, we're Westerners, we're fine, we'll just wait until the end comes and flee to a place of safety. We don't have to worry about anything. People will get a witness out somewhere. It doesn't matter if anybody comes or not. It does matter because it's part of God's plan. And God has a time schedule that they knew back in 1967. And in 1957, I'm going to read something from the late Dr. Herman Hay, who I did know. I've met him several times and talked to him on various things. So this is from the twice. It was in the Plain Truth in 1957, and it was in the Tomorrow's World in 1970. Isaiah 11. The Gentiles are going to seek God, and Israel and Judah are going to be gathered the second time from the heathen nations. This could not be speaking of any spiritual Israel. The last verses of the chapter speak of men crossing rivers and highways as they leave the Gentile nations and return a second time to the land of promise. This is the time spoken of by Paul. Blindness in part has happened to Israel until all the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. So all Israel shall be saved, as is written. There shall come out of Zion a deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. This is my covenant to them, which I shall take away from their sins. Romans 11:25-27. Here is good news. Good news. Here is part of the gospel message. Blindness has happened to Israel not forever, but until the full number of Gentiles who are to be converted in this age comes into the kingdom. Then Israel shall be forgiven, and the vast majority of Gentiles will seek God. So the end of this age has not fully come yet, but People are supposed to be called, and that includes Gentiles. Well, what about Israelites? What about descendants of Israel? What about the Ezekiel warning? Well, we're doing that as well. I'll read from Ezekiel chapter 3, verses 17 to 19. Son of man, I've made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Therefore, hear a word from my mouth, and give them warning from me. When you say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, that same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand. Yet, if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but you have delivered your soul. Again, when a righteous man turns from righteousness and commits iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you have not given him warning, he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood I'll require at your hand. Warning the descendants of Israel is something that we've been doing. Now, what are we doing? Well, we're doing what Isaiah said to do. Isaiah 58, verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, tell my people their transgression, the house of Jacob their sins. We've been doing this in the Continuing Church of God. Our Bible News Prophecy videos cover vast types of sins throughout the land of Israel-dominated lands throughout the world. We've not shied away from doing this. We've been denouncing all various types of sins that are going out. Now, I'm not going to read all the rest of the Ezekiel warning now, and there is a duality to it. But there is a couple of things that I want to say. And one of them is, we are being the watchman, we are telling people, we are getting the witness out. But I want to read Romans 9:27. Isaiah also cries out concerning Israel. Though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant will be saved. And we in the Continuing Church of God are reaching those of Israel's descent as God calls them. And so some are going to be saved. Now, I showed you that we had people going places and trips all around the world. Why some places and not others? See what Jesus said to the Philadelphians over in Revelation chapter 3, verses 7 through 9. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things says he who is holy, he who is true, he who has a king of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. I know your works. See, I set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. For you have a little strength, you have kept my word, and have not denied my name. Now the visiting door was open to various places, and we went to various ones, including new places we'd never been before. But we're also reaching these other places all around the globe through our video platforms. We're on multiple channels, YouTube, Vimeo, Brighteon, and BitChute, as well as with our multiple websites. Between the videos, we reach over 220 nations every year, and through the websites, we reach people in over 220 nations and categories throughout the year. We are working diligently to fulfill Matthew 24:14. Preach the gospel of the kingdom of God, the world as a witness, but it needs to be more than a witness. It needs to be an effective witness. So let's read something that Jesus also said in Matthew 28, starting in verse 18. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore, make disciples of the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I'm with you always, even at the end of the age. As we've shown you in this Behind the Work video, we've had baptisms around the world. We've had baptisms of Gentiles. We've had baptisms of descendants of Israel. We are teaching the things that Jesus said to teach throughout the entire world. So that's what we've been doing Behind the Work in 2019. And in 2020, we intend to go to additional places, different places, other places. Whatever doors Jesus opens for us. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you understand what your support helps do. It helps us send people throughout the world to fulfill Matthew 24:14, Matthew 28, 18, 19, and 20, Romans chapter 11, 25, Romans chapter 9, verse 27, and various other portions of Scripture. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Continuing Church of God.